Okay, hello. Just a small update on Classy UI. I shipped a new version, and yeah, so let's just go through the updates. So one thing we have done is how it works is that we've optimized the production output. So previously the production output had like double snake case. I guess that's the word for it. And now it only has one during the production build. Also, the decorators, they were split by like a colon, which is now a dash. So the problem with a colon is that you need an escape. So it's kind of like two characters. So now the decorators are behind like a dash, and then the CSS property and its specific token is separated by underscore. So it's super optimized now. So that's nice. Another thing we have done is that we have tried to improve the IDE catching the typing. So when you start your development flow now, it will actually produce, let's see here, it will actually produce a Classy UI DTS file in the project itself, which contains the typing for that project based on the configuration you have. So this will also follow you through the repo. So if you have like a colleague who's grabbing an update, the typing should instantly update, even though they have like their development flow active and stuff. So yes. One thing that was kind of dumb, not dumb, but annoying, is that with the latest VS Code release, they have changed the default setting. Something called semantic highlighting has been set to true by default, and it actually overrides themes. So this is has caused a small riot because it's ruining themes. So I'm not sure what Microsoft is going to do about this, if they're going to revert it. But the way it affected Classy UI is that when you write this stuff, if you were to write like gray_20, you would see it be purple in this case, and then suddenly change to white because of this overriding of semantic highlighting. If you were to write only gray though, it works, or if you were to remove the underscore, it also works. So this seems to be a bug with semantic highlighting. Semantic highlighting itself is that it doesn't treat gray underscore and and even gray underscore and a normal character, like a normal character. That also works. It's when you have gray underscore and a number, it doesn't highlight it. So I tried to create an issue on that. Something will happen here, but anyways, it's just an intermediate thing. Yes, but what I really wanted to show you is we're working on this little project next to Classy UI, kind of to show what it can do, how to write a library on top of it, and it might even become something more eventually. But currently it's just called a demo library. And what's kind of cool about this is that we're writing this with Storybook. So we actually have Angular React Vue in here, which means that we're actually creating like a component library for all three major frameworks. And what I'm doing now, I'm just looking at Bootstrap because I'm not like a designer, so I don't have the energy or creativity to create something custom. But it's also looking at an existing like Bootstrap. It's like a testament to what Classy UI can do better than existing solutions. So the way this is built up is that, okay, so I just have like a container here. It doesn't look very good right now, but I haven't really focused on that. So the way it works is that you have these core compositions. So in this case, we have container, and these compositions are exposed as functions. And in this case, the container can have a size, and you see it has SM, MD, LG, XL, Fluid, which are Bootstrap terms. And then it composes in, like by default, it should be a full container. And if there is no size set, or the size is SM, then it should use mobile max width mobile, for example. And the same for grid. We define them as functions, and that allows us to take in properties, and then we choose the correct token based on the property passed in. Now, the really cool thing is that you can actually use these compositions out of the box. So for example, if you were to, you don't want to, like, this is the thing with CSS and JS, is that we put everything behind the component. And that actually gives a ton of overhead. I'm not able, like, I don't have any hard facts on arguing it becoming too much of an overhead, but there is certainly an overhead there. Like with style components, for example, every time you do something like this, it actually creates a component underneath. So what you could do here instead is you could say like container from some lib and compositions. So let's just say lib, this lib. And then in your code, you would say like div, class name, container, for example. And then you could pass in, for example, 4. No, sorry, was it small? Yeah. So you could do things like this, which is kind of nice. So you don't get the overhead of components. And maybe you're not in a framework with components. You can still use the library directly like this. And then, of course, you could still like import compose and tokens from classy UI, and you could like compose stuff together. So you could say like compose container MD, whatever. But of course, you could also, if you were in an environment with React, you would be able to get the component versions of those. So for example, container is created like this. It imports the container from the composition, so it's kind of like reusing everything there. And then we have like a component there, and then we expose basically the same thing. Oh yeah, we don't need, oh sorry, yeah. We expose the same thing. So what we allow here is that we're using the container and we're taking the size from the container itself, which means that if you were to use this, you would do something like this. Hello. Oh my god. Container. And then in this version of the library, you can also say like tokens, and then you can compose some other tokens, color red 50, for example. So you get this ability to compose the class names with actual elements. That is what basically components do. And maybe some components also have some logic. So for example, in Bootstrap, you have like an alert thingy, and that actually requires jQuery currently. But you could implement that logic inside the component itself. So you kind of contain logic with the component and internal state if it needs that and stuff. So definitely having components gives you a lot more flexibility in terms of logic and state. But if you have like a static site, you could just use these directly, the compositions. And then you would just do the same for Vue and Angular. They just define the same kind of components, but they also use the core compositions. So if the core compositions change, all the components change as well. And you could have a really, really nice framework, which optimally extracts CSS, constrains the user to the tokens and all that stuff, which is really cool. Okay, so this was just a sneak peek. We actually discovered a bug building this, so we need to fix that, and then I'll talk more about this library and how you would consume it and all that stuff as we get moving. And this is actually a really good way to test class UI. As I mentioned, we found a bug doing this, and we're going to implement a lot more here, and that will be like our project having actual experience building a project with class UI, and also feel confident that it actually works in the different types of compositions and everything. Okay, that was a lot of rambling. Yeah, there's a new beta out. Please try it. Again, moving closer to release, and looking forward to it. Bye bye.